Hi guys, it's me ChazRHD and welcome to the qualifying watch along for the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix weekend. Hopefully you guys are doing well, whether you tuned in earlier on to my practice watch along or whether this is the first time this weekend you are tuning into the channel, the first time ever you are tuning into this channel. Hopefully you guys are doing well, and hopefully you've had a great summer break and just at the moment, hopefully you're doing as best as you could possibly be doing given whatever your circumstances are. And no matter what time it is in your part of the world, or even what possible day it is in your part of the world, hopefully, like I said, you're having a good day. And hopefully with me today, you will watch along and enjoy qualifying at Spa. A qualifying session that looks as though it's probably going to be a wet session for most of it by the looks of it so far. Which, of course, is great news. So I cannot wait to see that. And it's going to be a very exciting session. Of course, the fight for pole position between Max and Lewis in wet conditions at Spa is just a match made in heaven, really. And then, obviously, we'll look for surprises from the midfield pack, which I'm sure we'll get some in the session starting in just under 30 minutes' time. But dry or wet, I think we're going to be in for a very close an exciting session, and the rain just makes it even more exciting than it would be normally. Now, let me get on to, before we get into the teams and preview how they should get on in this session and how the drivers should get on based on their respective talent in the in the wet weather and around this circuit. Let's get into the results of practice 3, which was held in wet conditions. Here you go. Max Verstappen ended up P1 by a second pretty much from his teammate Sergio Perez second, Lewis Hamilton third, Lando Norris in fourth, Ocon fifth, and then Stroll, Gasly, Vettel, Russell and Alonso completing the top 10. And then the rest of the order: Bottas, Latifi, Ricciardo, Sainz, Schumacher, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Giovinazzi, Mazepin, and Kimi Raikkonen. And definitely at the top of the timesheets there, Max Verstappen being not only top, but top by 1 full second is ridiculous. It really is. It's incredibly ridiculous how quick he was. And not just how quick he was, he didn't do that many laps. You can see he only did 10 laps, and that was really that time he did the first and real only clean run he had in the entire session. So just incredible how Verstappen was so quick so early on in that session. Of course, Lewis Hamilton also didn't do that many laps. I think Hamilton could have probably gone quicker if he had done another lap later on in the session, but I don't know if it would have been quicker than Verstappen's time. I think very hard to say, honestly. So, yeah, we'll see, of course, in this session. Out of the two, probably best drivers on the grid. Also, two best, I would say, wet weather drivers on the grid. We'll see who truly dominates this circuit. And now let's get into the teams and preview how, of course, they'll get on. Starting off with Mercedes. Now, Valtteri Bottas, if you didn't know, has a 5-place grid penalty because of him causing the pile-up at Turn 1 on the first lap at the Hungarian Grand Prix. So Valtteri Bottas is really out of play. Plus, I think with the weather that we're going to have, I don't think Valtteri's going to have a good session because in wet weather conditions, he's not done well for quite a long time. Again, in the wet weather. So I think Bottas is in for a struggle. And I think Bottas will probably have a low starting position. Maybe not towards the back of the grid, but say halfway, between the front and the back, say around 10th place in terms of what his starting position will be. I don't see him qualifying obviously in the top 2, but I don't think he'll get in the top 3 even. Because, like I said, I don't think Valtteri Bottas has the confidence and speed just in wet conditions at the moment with his car to be right up there. So I don't think he'll be able to do that. But Lewis Hamilton, though, of course, he is the god when it comes to wet weather driving at the moment. I wouldn't say he's the best driver in the history of Formula One in terms of performance in the rain. I'd probably still say Senna and Schumacher. I'd say Senna number one, and then second, I think Hamilton and Schumacher are very close. That's it's an interesting debate, really, between Hamilton and Schumacher in terms of performance in the wet. But I still think Senna is the GOAT just about when it comes to wet weather driving. But in this current grid, Lewis Hamilton is definitely by far the best in the wet conditions, and also the best when it comes to qualifying. So I think, it's very hard for me to sit here and say Lewis Hamilton is going to struggle or not get pole position. Honestly, it is very hard for me to say that, because even though Max Verstappen, quickest in practice 2, despite having an accident, practice 3, a second quicker than Hamilton, and, was all great, because Lewis Hamilton has been so great here at Spa in the past and is so great in the wet, I just can't sit here and say, yeah, I don't think he'll be able to get pole today. I can't sit here and do that. And honestly, when it comes to who's going to get pole position out of Hamilton and Max, for me, it is literally a 50-50. It's so hard to say, especially in the wet conditions. I know people will say, well, Hamilton, is the quicker driver in the wet. Yeah, but Max is still very, very good, if not great, in the wet. But also, the Red Bull car, I believe, is better suited to this circuit than the Mercedes is. So, that's what I mean. When you take all that in, and then look at, who should be the favourite for pole, there almost isn't a favourite for pole. It's, like I say, it's a 50-50. I don't think there's anyone else who can realistically compete for pole position other, like I said, than Verstappen and Hamilton. If I was going to go for someone, though, I'd have to go for Lewis Hamilton. Just over Max Verstappen. But like I said, if anyone out there went for Verstappen, I would completely understand, because, like I said, it's so hard to predict. And it's going to be so close. So close. And what I'm looking forward to most in this session, if it is wet the entire way through, is not just the battle, it's how hard they push each other. Like, how quick they go compared to the rest, because they will be pushing each other to such new heights that we probably didn't think possible, that we're going to get some very, very quick lap times for the, wet conditions. So I think that's one thing I am looking forward to a lot, is just that height they push themselves, or push each other rather, to, trying to get pole position. And I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you had Hamilton and Verstappen separated by a few hundredths or a tenth or two, and then the next car is a second and a half away from those top two. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happened, because that's just what these two are like. When they're head to head, they push each other so hard that almost you forget there's competition out there. You forget there's 18 other cars, 18 other drivers. So I think we are in for a great battle for sure. And with Red Bull, like I said, I think Red Bull have a car better suited to this track than Mercedes do. So if at any point in the session it goes dry, I think the advantage would have to rest with Max Verstappen and Red Bull, because the first and third sector, the Honda-powered teams look very, very strong. In the dry practice 2 yesterday, of course, Verstappen was P1. Normally, Red Bull are quite slow on a Friday and don't push as hard on a Friday as Mercedes do. So for Verstappen to be P1 in practice 2 is a very good indicator as to how quick Red Bull are in the dry at Spa. And also Gasly was comfortably in the top 5 yesterday in the dry conditions. So I think, like I said, if at any point it goes dry, Red Bull absolutely, I think, are the favourites then for pole position. But if it's wet, which it looks as though it's going to be, like I said, 50-50, and I'd have to edge it towards Lewis Hamilton simply because with it being so close in wet weather conditions, I think Hamilton's experience, nous, and his quality in the wet will be just enough to get pole. Just about enough. In a similar way to 2018, where in that session, Vettel was quicker than Hamilton in the dry through, I think, the first couple parts of qualifying. And the Ferrari was quicker than the Mercedes in the dry, which we saw in the race that weekend. But when it was wet in Q3, Hamilton, like I said, had enough experience, nous, and quality to get pole position, even though it didn't really matter in the race because Vettel overtook him anyway on the first lap. But I still think, like I said, that that Hamilton in wet conditions has just enough to get the job done. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be exciting either way. I don't really care who gets pole position, just as long as we get those two pushing each other to newfound heights. That would be just incredible for us. It really, really would. Now, let's get on to some teams who might surprise us today. Or drivers, rather, that might surprise us today. Lando Norris for McLaren. And we'll start with them out of the midfield pack. Norris, P4 in practice 3. Not really a surprise given how good he's been this season. Lando, it's weird with him because normally during a season, when people have, or most people, when they have a good season, normally at some point there will be a dip. Lando Norris has not had a dip at all this season. He's just stayed at this high level and just not once even gradually come down from that. I mean, in terms of results, yes, in Hungary he didn't finish, but that was because he was bashed out of the race. I mean, if he wasn't bashed out of the race, he was up in 3rd place, and he probably would have finished up in 3rd or 4th in that Grand Prix. That's what I mean. It's just, I can't believe he's been able to stay at this level for so long consistently. Because I thought after the first 4 or 5 races, I thought at some point Norris is going to start finishing 7th, 8th, still decent results, but not as good. But he keeps banging them out, and even in practice 3, keeps, up with that speed. And I think, given what we saw in practice 3, it looks as though Sergio Perez has the speed to be, say, best of the rest after Verstappen and Hamilton. So I'm not sure Norris can really challenge Sergio Perez, even though I'm sure he'll be hoping that he can do that, because, I think he knows Verstappen and Hamilton, who are better drivers, are out of reach. But I think Perez is just a bit too quick in that Red Bull for Norris to get up there. But I think P4 or P5 is what Lando Norris should be aiming for. And then if he, gets that in qualifying, then in the race, given McLaren's straight line speed down those long straights and given their race paces as normal, McLaren should be fine for another top 5 finish of Lando Norris. I will say, though, Daniel Ricciardo has got to perform today. In practice 3, he was poor. I know it's practice, but still, his pace, his finishing position was poor. He has got to improve. He, for me, needs to be at least in the top 8. Even if it's 8th, that would still be good enough. Because Norris, like I say, at best, Norris is going to be, say, 4th, which is not, in terms of positions, miles up the grid compared to Ricciardo and where he would be if he qualified in 8th place. So if he, like I say, if he can qualify 8th or any better than that, then that'll be absolutely fine. But if he ends up where he was in practice 3, 12th or 13th, I'm sorry, that's just not good enough. The reason being is, one, the car is good. You can't complain about that anymore. Secondly, Ricciardo does tend to go well at this circuit. Of course, he won here in 2014 and has had 2 other podiums. And generally, if you compare this, say, to Monza, he generally tends to be just that bit better here compared to Monza. So, like I say, dry or wet, Ricciardo has got to be up there in the top 7 or 8 on the grid. And I just think if he qualifies down 12th and 13th, like I said, I don't think there's an excuse there to say, well, the car's not quite there, or, this isn't my circuit, or whatever. I don't think there's an excuse. He has got to be up there because Ferrari, as you guys may know, and if you read the bottom ticker on my stream, you'll see in a moment the constructor standings. Ferrari are now 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. They are level on points with McLaren, but they are still ahead. And Ricciardo, I think, has got to start, not massively, because I think Ricciardo's not going to be as good as Norris this season. Norris has been clearly better, and that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the season. The only way Ricciardo is going to be better than Norris is if next season Ricciardo, just gets more comfortable within the team and car, and, with the new regulations, that can represent a fresh start at McLaren. But Ricciardo has got to pull his weight just a bit more to help McLaren get 3rd in the Constructors, because 3rd in the Constructors, and obviously they finished there last season. If they were to do it again, it would really help McLaren. It really would, because it would show one, it would show obviously not just progression, but maintaining a level of being in the top 3 teams on the grid. But obviously, financially, it would help, more money. And I think it would benefit them really going into the future, because to go head-to-head with a Ferrari team that is very strong, a Ferrari team that has had, 2 pole positions, should have won a race this season for sure. It would be just a great victory, I guess you could call it, finishing 3rd. McLaren, of course, last season they had the fight with Racing Point and Renault to finish 3rd, and they won that. But I think this fight against Ferrari is the biggest battle they've had since, 2012 or something like that, in terms of fighting another team in the Constructors. And I think beating Ferrari, who, great driver lineup, much improved car, and have looked pretty strong in the last 2 or 3 races, it would represent how far this team has moved forward, and it would be a big boost of confidence for McLaren going forward into the new era in 2022, because it would show that they can be up there with a Ferrari. If Ferrari, say, do get back up to a race-winning level next season, like I say, it will show that McLaren can be up there as well. It will give them that confidence that they can be up there competing with the best. So hopefully Ricciardo can get a good grid position for the race. For Ferrari, it's hard to say what they're going to do. They weren't quick in practice 2, which was, Leclerc had an accident. Sainz didn't really do much. And then in practice 3, they only set 1 competitive time and then didn't really do anything after that. So it's very hard to say what Ferrari are up to. What Ferrari are, or what part of the grid they're really at. Are they right up there, say, with Norris and Gasly and maybe the Alpines? It's hard to say. Very hard to say. You'd imagine so, because the Ferrari, of course, the slower the corner, the quicker they are. In the wetter conditions, the corner's obviously going to be slower. So you would imagine, especially as well with the 2 drivers they have who have always been very good in wet conditions, you would imagine that Ferrari are going to be right up there. But like I said, we haven't seen it so far, so I don't really know what to say with them. I would hope they would be up there 5th, 6th, or 7th, honestly, with both cars. But we'll have to see. Sorry I can't give you a more in-depth preview for them, but like I say, they haven't really shown us enough this weekend to be like, yeah, this is where Ferrari are probably going to be. Very hard to say. With Aston Martin, though, they've been strangely quick this weekend. I mean, this circuit does suit their strengths, I think, a bit more than, say, a Hungary would. But even in the wet conditions, where you'd think Aston Martin would be struggling a bit more, they were still pretty quick. I think they were, 6th and 8th or 7th and 8th in practice 3. So, yeah, Aston Martin looked pretty quick. And, of course, Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel are good wet weather drivers, which obviously helps. So, and by the way, I'm just looking at the track. It's not just raining. It is absolutely pissing down. Couldn't rain. If it rained any harder, the track would flood. It is raining that hard. I don't think we're going to get the session underway. I really don't think we can get the session underway on time. So I'll update you guys when it comes to that. But it is raining very hard at Spa. Yeah, Aston Martin, like I say, been unusually quick, even in wet conditions. We'll see what they do. Given what we've seen so far, you'd have to say one of their cars getting into the top 10 looks like a possibility. We'll see what happens there. AlphaTauri, I think in dry conditions, I think they're very quick, and I think they could be almost a dark horse, again, in dry conditions, but it's not going to be dry. So in the wet, you'd have to say Yuki Tsunoda's probably going to struggle in this session because he's not driven that many times around Spa. And also, I think the AlphaTauri in the wet is just it's not quite the car it is in the dry, put it that way, especially around a circuit like this. I think Gasly definitely will be the man for AlphaTauri, who's up there getting the result that they need. So Pierre Gasly, I think, yeah, top 7 or 8, definitely, I think he'll get in this session. By the way, the safety car has been doing some laps on circuit. I don't know if we're going to get a message flash up saying session delayed or anything, but there is a lot of water on the circuit. A lot of water on the circuit. It's definitely full wet conditions, but to me it looks as though it might be just a bit too wet to start the session. We'll have to see as the session gets underway in 6.5 minutes time. But yeah, Gasly will be the man for AlphaTauri today, given the weather we are having. And given the weather we're having, Alpine, I think, will be very happy. Very, very happy, because aerodynamically, their car is a pretty sound car. It's comfortable. It's, especially in qualifying trim, it does tend to be very just consistent. You know, with the drivers, it's not a car that snaps all over the place. We have seen that sometimes with the AlphaTauri at times, where the AlphaTauri does snap a bit, or other cars in the field, they do tend to be a bit uncomfortable at times when you push them hard. The Alpine, like I say, aerodynamically is a pretty sound car, and tends to be a car you can, you know, just push and it won't really get away from you. And I think in the rain, given of course their strength is grip, like we saw in the race in Hungary, which of course they won that Grand Prix amazingly. Alpine, I think, will go well in this session, and with the drivers they have, even more so. Ocon, of course, in the last wet qualifying session here in 2018, qualified in 3rd place, and Fernando Alonso, of course, we know his history of brilliant wet weather drives. So look out for Alpine. I think they're going to have a very good session. Alfa Romeo, if Raikkonen's car's fixed, I think you could see Raikkonen up there getting a surprise result. Kimi Raikkonen is still one of the best drivers around Spa. I know he's in a poor car, and it's hard to sometimes see his, say, performance levels around Spa. but it is still right up there with the top 4 or 5 on the grid. It absolutely is. So if he can have a car that is fixed and just not make any mistakes, I think Kimi Raikkonen definitely gets into Q2 and possibly gets into Q3. Like I say, because he is so strong at this circuit. He has won the Belgian Grand Prix 1, 2, 3, 4 times, I think. So, yeah, I think Kimi Raikkonen definitely going to be in for a good day today. And then Williams, of course, this man, Mr. Saturday, was pretty quick in practice 3. Also, so was Latifi. They were 9th and 12th, Williams. We'll see what they can do. And yeah, I think Williams, definitely with Russell, I think they'll get a car into Q2. A car into Q3, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough, but it's possible for sure. It is 100% possible in that Williams. And of course, Williams now 8th in the Constructors' Championship, and unless a madness happens and Alfa Romeo score 8 points between now and the end of the season, Williams should finish 8th in the Constructors, which will be a massive boost to them financially going forward, and hopefully will mean that this team will rise again from the ashes that we have seen them bathing in the last 2 or 3 years. But we have 3 minutes to go until the session gets underway. Guys, just want to say, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I will be, if I can speak English, I will be live tomorrow. The race preview, race watch along, and race review. 3 separate streams for you guys. And also, I best start recording now so I can clip the part of the stream I want to. There will be later tonight. Don't know what time. My aim is before I go to bed. I'm going to, just work on it as soon as, I can get the time to, will be a highlights package of today's watch along, where it'll be the best bits of the watch along, the most exciting bits, and it will, be something extra for you guys, but it will help you guys be able to catch up and listen to, like I said, the best bits of the stream when I know, hour and a half or 2 hour stream or whatever, sometimes it's very hard. Start a qualifying session, by the way, as it's been announced, the start of the session is delayed. I don't know by how long, we'll have to see, but it is delayed. So yeah, what I'm going to do, like I say, upload the best bits of this watch along and upload it later on. And the reason I'm doing it is, again, one, because I want you guys to have, more content on the channel that you can, watch, but also that you guys, because I know it's hard in an hour and a half stream to be able to catch the best bits of the stream if you're, tuning in, tuning out, or you missed a stream because of whatever reason. I know it's sometimes hard to be able to catch certain parts of the stream. So, like I said, I'm going to upload the best bits, and then you guys can enjoy the best bits of the stream and enjoy, my excitement and, the best bits of the session. And I'll also be doing the same for the race watch along from now on. So you will get race watch along highlights or best bits, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I'm probably going to call it best bits, or highlights. One of the two. It's probably going to be the only 2 real candidates for what it's going to be called. But yeah, that's what's going to be happening on the channel from now on. And I can't wait to upload that later on for you guys. Of course, once qualifying actually bloody gets underway. But as I said, start of qualifying is delayed at Spa Francorchamps due to very heavy rain. And of course, we wait for the start of the session. Hopefully, won't be too long. As just looking, and to me, it looks like the rain might have eased off a bit. So, yeah. We'll see if when it eases off, we'll see if it dries up enough to get running here. But I think what I'll do is just update the text here to say that qualifying is delayed. So any of you tuning in aren't unsure. And the race control now just saying 5-minute warning prior to Q1 will be provided. Of course, they have to do that. Qualifying is delayed for anyone who's just tuning in. Don't know when it will be getting underway. That's not been announced yet. Count Blah, thank you very much for the super chat. For $10, he says, or at me and Rooksfoot saying, "What's up, fellas?" Yeah, I'm doing, decently well. He says, hope everything is good. Thanks for the work you guys put in, listening in the background. Thank you very, very much. That is, very much appreciated. Let me just read some of the chat whilst we're waiting here for some possible action on the circuit. But yeah, back to what I was saying about stream clips. So yeah, from now on, the plan is for a race weekend to upload, stream clips to, fill out content on the channel. Because at the end of the day, streaming is is what my channel is best at. That's the #1 go-to thing about this channel. So I might as well embrace it instead of trying to hide away from it. Just maybe not exploit, but, just play into it as much as possible. That streaming is the #1 thing about this channel that you guys obviously do enjoy. So yeah, stream clips are going to be the thing going forward. I will say, though, don't think that proper recorded videos other than the streams are not going to happen again. Because they will be happening again. I need to find something that, a subject that I want to do where I don't have to upload it by a certain date. Because when I have to upload things by a certain date, I end up just doing my head in and end up failing at it. So that's why I'm doing it now this way. And as well, probably during the winter break, I'm going to be doing streams and clipping parts of the streams from that to give you guys content over the winter as well. That is the way forward for the channel, but I just do want to say, proper recorded videos, they are going to happen. The subjects might be old or maybe not absolutely what the current thing is. I mean, I've got one video in my head planned that I can make, absolutely any time. And the reason that is because it doesn't need to be out by a certain date because, it's not a time-sensitive thing. So, those type of things, they're not completely out of the water. But from now on, the majority of what is going to be happening on this channel is going to be streaming and then clips from the stream, best bits or, subjects or whatever it may be. That's what it's going to be from now on. And I think once we start rolling with that, I think you guys will enjoy it. And, like I said, for example, after this stream, will be a qualifying watch-along highlights video at some point later tonight. And then after tomorrow's streaming, at the start of next week, if there's an incident to analyse, there'll be that on the Monday. And then on the Tuesday, there'll be a race watch-along highlights video. Or if there isn't an incident to analyse, then I'll upload the race watch-along highlights on the Monday and, vice versa. If there's anything else I want to upload from the streams, then I can just, upload it for you guys. So, that's the way forward. And I think it's the best for, me and you guys because, one, for me, it's easier for me to be able to do it because my life at the moment is very... I haven't got much time. I've got a job. And I've obviously got this, and like I have to focus on streaming because that is the number one thing about this channel. That I do have to focus on that the most. And you know, I think for you guys, it will give you, you know, content in between races, which I think is the only thing at the moment which I'm missing from the channel that I used to have a couple of years ago. So, you know, that's what the aim is, and I think definitely you guys will, after, you know, a few weeks, I think you guys will enjoy the schedule. I think you'll come to like it, and I think I'll come to like it as well. And it will definitely be a lot more. I personally will be a lot more able to upload those things than, you know, a recorded video which I'm trying to rush out because it has to be out by a certain date. Silverback says, Chazza, opinion on Ferrari saying the person that caused the accident should pay for the damages. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because drivers, Formula One drivers definitely these days earn a lot more money than they used to, but the teams are worth a lot more than the drivers. So when you have big accidents that cost over 100k, I don't think it's reasonable to ask the drivers to pay that amount, because that's quite a lot of money. And like I said, the drivers, they don't earn, you know, enough to be, you know, that comfortable where they can pay, you know, 300, 400k if it's, you know, a massive accident to get away with those things. So I don't agree with that at all. Astro Stevo, Qatar GP confirmed, I gather. Thoughts on that, Chazza? And by the way, Robert's delayed because of heavy rain, if you're wondering. Yeah, Qatar GP. I mean, it's another race. That's a bonus. The track is not the worst track I've seen, but I don't think it'll be a great race. I think at best just a 5 or 6 out of 10, really. But like I say, it's another race. I will say, though, I am surprised they didn't think of going back to Bahrain to do the Sakir Grand Prix. I was thinking they were going to do that. And that was actually rumoured to be the plan. As, by the way, the sun, I think, has now pretty much come out at Spa. So we should... or is about to come out at Spa, so we should be getting going soon. Not very soon, but soon, because the track is going to start drying. I think the safety car is helping to some extent to dry the track. And honestly, I'd say the track looks pretty... not dry, but it looks dry enough for running, for sure. I don't see anything at the moment from what the safety car is doing. I don't see anything where it's like, yeah, can't start the session. I mean, there are a couple puddles, but they are on straights. I mean, yeah, you can spin if you hit a puddle at too high a speed, but it's not like they're through the middle of a fast corner whilst you're turning. So yeah, the track to me at the moment looks good enough. Hopefully, we'll get some running in a moment. Let me move on to a different picture. That one is not quite good enough. Oh. Okay. And yeah, I think the rain, by the looks of it on the radar, the rain has mostly passed over. That's what it looks like. By, you know, seeing the radar just then. And yeah, now the sun has come out at the Spa Francorchamps circuit. And yeah, I think the safety car will probably come in at the end of this lap, hopefully, and say, yeah, we're good enough to get going. And then hopefully we'll get going in 5 to 10 minutes. That's one thing you don't want to do, is say, right, we start in 10-15 minutes, and then in 10-15 minutes, it rains again. So, yeah, I think they'll want to be getting this underway as soon as possible so that they can take advantage of the drier weather now. But, yeah, I'll just get a couple things ready for the start of the session. And we'll wait to see when the message comes through as to when the session will be getting underway here at Spa. Clouds still at times look a bit threatening around the circuit, not going to lie, but not threatening enough to really cause a serious downpour that's going to, you know, delay the session any further. So, honestly, and here we go. Cars at the end of the pit lane, and it looks as though we are about to get going. So, let me get everything ready. That was a bit dramatic. I didn't see any 5-minute warning. So, yeah, that's a bit dramatic. They've gone so quickly on that. And there you go. That's right. So, qualifying 1, guys, gets underway in 45 seconds time. So, here we go. Qualifying is about to get underway at Spa. Just update that picture there. And update a couple other things. Of course, Q1, 18 minutes long, and we'll be knocking out the 5 slowest here in qualifying 1. So, just waiting for the 2 Williamses to get going in just a moment as they're slightly rolling back in the pit lane with an Alfa Romeo and I think Yuki Tsunoda just behind. And there you go, green light, and qualifying for the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix finally gets underway as the 2 Williamses grace the circuit and launch up a mass amount of spray, as it is still very wet, but not as wet as it was earlier on. And we'll see who is going to deal with these conditions the best in this opening stage of qualifying. As pretty much everyone now coming out onto circuit. I will get the timer up in just a moment, in about 20 seconds time, so just give me a moment, guys. And I will get up also the dotted lines to show you the cut-off points. As, of course, everyone out on, by the looks of it, or a couple people out on inters. And there you go, 17 minutes to go. The McLaren there of Lando Norris is out on the wet, and so is Lewis Hamilton and Gasly. Latifi and Russell have come out on the inter. Now, I think they made a good decision there because it's not raining at the moment. The sun is kind of out, and it's just going to get drier. So they should, those 2 Williamses, get progressively quicker as the session, or as their, you know, first 2 or 3 laps goes on. So I don't think Williams have made that bad of a decision there, to be honest, as some may think. And there you go with the dotted line. Anyone below that dotted line, so as you can see at the moment, it says Leclerc, Tsunoda, Giovinazzi, Mazepin, Raikkonen. If those 5 were to be in those positions at the end of Q1, then they would be knocked out of the session. As we have every car now on circuit. And yeah, the only 2 cars on the intermediate tyre are the Williamses. As here comes Mr. Saturday, George Russell. Oh no, it's Nicholas Latifi. It did say Russell on the graphic there, so they've got that wrong also. Here comes Russell in the Williams. Let's see what he has. This would be a great chance for Russell to show how good he is. Tricky conditions, not a good car. But if he was to get a great result here, this would really showcase his talents. As let's see how he negotiates Eau Rouge and Radion. And he gets through just fine. And now onto the Kemmel Straight he goes. And moves across to collect some more water. And now into Les Combes. And into the middle sector. The middle sector at Spa is definitely where the time is made and lost in terms of the driver-to-driver comparisons. If you can't get the second sector right, you will not have a good result, period. Because the corners are just very difficult, very quick. They require a lot of skill from the drivers. And if you're not quite at it, you're going to be punished heavily around a track like Spa, especially in the wet conditions. As Russell coming through Pouhon and the exit looked pretty okay. Yellow flag in sector 2, and it is his teammate just ahead of him, Nicholas Latifi, at turn 13 by the looks of it. Going for a spin on the grass. Hopefully doesn't get in the way of anyone behind, and the yellow flags should now come back in, but that is maybe an indication that it's not quite in parts of the second sector ready for the intermediate tyre. And here's a replay, and yeah, Latifi on the entry, losing the rear end, tried to correct it, just couldn't hold it in place and went off track. Then, of course, once you go off track, even less grip, and then was sent into a spin. Lewis Hamilton now coming through Pouhon and now into turn 12 and into 13 as Russell goes P1 in the Williams. Let me just update that. Of course, one of the first drivers to set a time. Not a very quick time, I have to say. A 2:11.7. Saying that, Raikkonen and Norris have gone, well, even slower than what Russell has done. So has Tsunoda. Tsunoda 0.2 down. Giovinazzi out to third. So, yeah, intermediate tyres. If you keep it on the island, as they say, looking pretty good so far. Saying that, Pierre Gasly has just gone up into first place. Will he stay there? Yes, he will, because Lewis Hamilton, despite doing a quickest final sector, only goes second, a 1/10 of a second down on Pierre Gasly. And, oh, that's why, because at turn... what's that? I think turn 8, I think that is. Went straight on and then came back. Or was that Bottas, or did they both do the same thing? I don't know. Yeah, Pierre Gasly is in first place right now. Gasly up to first. And then in second place is Lewis Hamilton. Not anymore for Pierre Gasly in P1, because Sergio Perez is now P1. But I was going to say that Sergio Perez was in P1, but Max Verstappen is about to smash him out of the park. And not even Max Verstappen, George Russell is about to smash him out of the park. Russell on this lap alone is 6 seconds quicker than Perez. So the intermediate tyre, like I said, great decision by Williams, because now they're about to go P1 because they're miles quicker, as Verstappen does go P1, but Russell goes 5.5 seconds quicker than Max Verstappen on the intermediate tyre. And Russell P1 on a 2-minute 2 flat, as Latifi now goes second. He's also, of course, on the intermediate tyres. So, like I said, with the track not seeing any more rain, that intermediate tyre just gets better and better. It's a great decision by the Williams team. So Latifi up into second place. Lando Norris is now third. And then Max Verstappen 4th. Sergio Perez, I was going to say was 5th. Now it's Pierre Gasly. And then you've got Charles Leclerc in 7th place. Well, it was in 7th place. Now it is Lewis Hamilton has gone up to 5th. Valtteri Bottas now has gone up to 5th in the Mercedes. Bottas 5th, Hamilton 6th. Mercedes not looking too great compared to Verstappen. Here's a replay of Lewis Hamilton at turn 1. And the rear end desperately trying to get away from him, but he controlled it well to get away from turn 1. Bit of a drift, but that's all okay. And then a replay of him going over Radiant. And all looks smooth sailing enough for him. And so, yeah. Sebastian Vettel has now jumped up the order. He has now jumped up to 6th place. So the Aston Martin splitting the 2 Mercedes right now. Another Aston Martin now pops up the order. Lance Stroll now up into 6th place. So 6th and 7th for Aston Martin. Hamilton down to 8th. And then it is Alonso in 9th place. Gasly 10th. Perez 11th. And then Leclerc 12th. And then Yuki Tsunoda is in 13th. And then Giovinazzi is 14th, even though his time is so slow compared to Russell. They've not even counted it as him having a position yet. That's how quick the intermediate is compared to the wet at this current point, given the track condition. And then Ricciardo is 15th, and then it is Mazepin in 16th. And who's just gone up the order? Oh, no one. I thought someone just shot up the order then. And then it's Mazepin, Sainz, Raikkonen, Schumacher, and Ocon. Those are the ones who are in the drop zone at the moment. And of course, desperately needing to get out. Let me just adjust that. There you go. As Ocon is now on track, on a quick lap, and he is on the intermediate tyre. And he's in a purple first sector, of course. The Alpine should be much faster than the Williams on the same tyre. As Ocon now comes through turn 13, now into Stavolo, which of course is turn 14. Then into second Stavolo and the Paul Frere curve. He's actually dropped a lot of time. He's now 1.1 seconds slower than Russell in the middle after the first 2 sectors. Don't quite understand where the grip's gone. Like I say, he should be quicker. As traffic ahead, hopefully they get out of the way. And they're not really going to, and he's a bit held up and distracted. That's a bit horrible there for Esteban Ocon, but he's going to have to just get on with it. Comes to the line, and he goes 3rd behind the 2 Williamses. I don't quite understand, unless rain has started to fall, I don't understand why Ocon has gone slower than the 2 Williamses. I don't really understand that. As just showing a replay of Lewis Hamilton being fitted intermediate tyres. And he gets away, I'm assuming just fine. And then Valtteri Bottas queuing behind gets his fresh set of intermediate tyres. As Carlos Sainz, who is 10 seconds off the pace right now, is on a better lap. I'll just update though that Esteban Ocon is up to 3rd, 1.5 seconds slower than Russell in the Williams. Remember, in practice 3, they were doing the top 10 were in the 1 minute 57s, 58s, 59s. The quickest time we've had so far, 2 minute 2 seconds. So very, very slow at the moment is the is the grid. As Carlos Sainz is 7 seconds quicker than Antonio Giovinazzi at the moment, which would see him rise up the order, but not to P1, probably P4 or P5 at the moment, as Sergio Perez, quarter of a second quicker than Russell after the first 2 sectors, and a purple middle sector for Sergio Perez. So here we go. Finally, some quick enough times to dethrone Russell in P1. Saying that, Carlos Sainz is just about, by 0.011 of a second, gone quickest. Carlos Sainz is up into P1. Not anymore. Sergio Perez goes P1 by a couple hundredths of a second. Let me just update Sainz first. So Carlos Sainz up to first. Well, not anymore, because now Daniel Ricciardo up to first. Now Charles Leclerc up to first. All the times changing around massively. Here comes Russell. Russell goes P1 again. The Russell back on top. And Verstappen, he now comes to the line and he goes quickest in the Red Bull. The Verstappen P1, Russell P2. Leclerc at the moment in third place with 4 minutes to go, as Norris now goes P1 in the McLaren. So there you go. Norris P1, Verstappen second, Russell third, and then it is Charles Leclerc in fourth place, and then Daniel Ricciardo is all the way up now in fifth, and then you've got Sergio Perez in sixth place, and then Sainz, Latifi, and I'll update Giovinazzi in just a moment because Lewis Hamilton comes to the line, and Lewis Hamilton goes P4 in the Mercedes. So Lewis Hamilton is up into fourth place. Still not that quick though. He's about a second slower than Verstappen with that lap. As Pierre Gasly jumps up to fifth place, as Valtteri Bottas now goes up to seventh. Bottas up to seventh. And let me just update the rest of the order. Giovinazzi is now 12th. Perez has gone up from 9th up to 4th place now in the Red Bull. Let me see if there's anyone else who I need to update. Don't think so. No, I don't. Well, now I do. As Esteban Ocon goes up to 9th. And Fernando Alonso goes 12th. Alpine not as quick as I thought they would be at the moment. As Lance Stroll now goes 9th in the Aston Martin. Only 2 minutes to go now in Q1. Who will get knocked out? Currently in the drop zone, Tsunoda, Schumacher, Mazepin, Raikkonen, and Vettel. As Latifi is up into 6th place. Let me just update the rest of the order. So, Tsunoda, and then Schumacher, Mazepin, Raikkonen. So, with pretty much 90 seconds to go in the drop zone and desperately need to get out right now is Yuki Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin, Kimi Raikkonen, Sebastian Vettel. Can they get out before the end of the session as Lewis Hamilton shoots up to second place? And Pierre Gasly, he will come to the line as Antonio Giovinazzi, I think, has just started another lap. Pierre Gasly goes 5th in the AlphaTauri. Now Valtteri Bottas, currently sat in 9th, goes up into 4th place. And the next car we're going to see, the Spaniard of Carlos Sainz, down into 13th at the moment, only goes 9th. Sebastian Vettel currently in 20th place, desperately needed to get out. He is 6 seconds slower than Lando Norris. Is pretty much going to be his last run, one of his last runs, and he goes all the way up into 10th position. So Sebastian Vettel getting himself out in the nick of time. Fernando Alonso jumps up to 12th. Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Schumacher, Mazepin, Raikkonen now in your drop zone with 15 seconds remaining in qualifying 1 as Charles Leclerc now up to 8th in the Ferrari. Ricciardo, currently the driver at risk, most at risk of course, in 15th, has not improved his first sector as Russell goes up to 4th, but he has improved his second sector. Is it enough? He only goes 12th. We'll have to see if that is enough for Ricciardo to get himself into the next part of qualifying. Max Verstappen goes back to the top of the timesheets on a 158.7, half a tenth ahead of Lando Norris. Norris, though, coming to the line now, and Norris goes P1 by 0.4 of a second. An amazing pace from Lando Norris in the McLaren. And now we wait to see if anyone in the drop zone can get out. Yuki Tsunoda only goes up to 16th. He is out. Kimi Raikkonen, only 19th. He's been out-qualified by a Haas. That's a shocking performance by Kimi Raikkonen. Giovinazzi, only 16th. And I'm going to guess that the two Haases will not be able to go any quicker. And it has finished, I believe, well, Sebastian Vettel is on another lap, so we'll see if Vettel wants to go any quicker. He doesn't really need to. So we'll see what happens here. He is currently sat, Sebastian Vettel, in P11 as he comes up to the final chicane. Now also Sergio Perez on another lap. And Vettel, yet, will complete this run, probably just to develop more confidence in what he has. And then Vettel goes up to 6th. Good end to the session for Sebastian Vettel. Sergio Perez comes to the line and jumps up from 8th up to 4th place. And Stroll has just snuck up to 13th at the last minute there. As we're just seeing a replay of Yuki Tsunoda, I believe. No, Pierre Gasly at the final chicane, locking the outside front and going a bit deep, but he did finish in 8th place, so just shows you how quick he is when, even when he makes a mistake, as Hamilton was in the car behind him. Hamilton locked up the outside front, but actually made the apex of the first part of the chicane, so pretty good cadence braking there from Lewis Hamilton. But that, guys, is Q1 over and done with, and knocked out officially Antonio Giovinazzi, Yuki Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, Kimi Raikkonen, and Nikita Mazepin. So there you go. And we'll now get everything ready for qualifying 2, which of course is 15 minutes long, and qualifying 2 is going to be very tight. Very, very tight. Because if you look at that top 10, especially with the two Williamses in there, other than, say, the two Mercedes and Red Bulls, anyone else could get knocked out in Q2 into, you know, anywhere between, of course, 11th and 15th, which is where, and by the way, the session has not got underway, Q2, and that was a mistake. Me setting the timer off there. But, yeah, anyone other than the two Mercedes and Red Bulls could legitimately get knocked out in Q2. And Williams, I don't understand. Why Williams so quick? This is illegal, surely. As, let me just put the second dotted line there. So anyone in between those two dotted lines at the end of qualifying 2 will be knocked out and start the race, of course, in those positions, barring any grid penalties. There you go. Q1 over and done with, and Q2 will be underway in a couple minutes' time. Of course, we did have a delay to start qualifying of, 10 to 15 minutes. So, yeah. We'll have to see how this one goes. And I'm just going to quickly, though, guys, mute my microphone because I need to quickly just adjust my skybox. It's about to go into standby mode, which, of course, is a big no-no. So I'm just quickly sort that out. And there you go, I'm back. And like I said, there was a 15-minute delay, wasn't there? To start qualifying, but we got there in the end, and the track seems dry enough for running. Hopefully, though, it stays wet, because that was a pretty up-down, all-around, exciting session. And just waiting to see when the session will be getting underway. Still showing the circuit they are at the moment. Our FOM, and yet pretty wet. And I will say as well, it does seem as though there is not a lot of rain falling, but there is a slight drizzle in the air still. So there is still rain to a certain extent falling, but it's just not of a high intensity that it was, 30, 40 minutes ago, where it was like the gods had literally launched all their fury on the Spa circuit. And yet, by the way, Pyro, Valtteri Bottas does have a 5-place grid penalty because of the collision he caused at Hungary. So what Bottas does in terms of the fight for pole doesn't matter, because he will start in 6th place. That's the best place he will start the race from. So really, like I said, it's Verstappen versus Hamilton, or maybe, if it stays wet, Lando Norris. Could Lando Norris get pole position in the McLaren? McLaren have not had a pole position since 2012, surely. That's got to be the last time they had pole. Unless they had a surprise one in the last couple of years and I can't remember. But Q2 will be underway in just a moment, as those cars desperately waiting to get out there and get times on the board. I've got to say, by the way, this man on screen, Kimi Räikkönen, was an absolute shit show in that session. Couldn't even beat the 2 Haas's, and he's won this race 4 times. Part of me says just please retire. Anyway, Q2 is now underway. And we're going to see, in what is a very close session, what surprises lie ahead of us. And who is going to be, surprisingly and unfortunately, knocked out in this session. I'll sync up the timer in, 45 seconds time or something. As the Red Bulls, by the way, even though we have got some cars on track at the moment, the Red Bulls have not come out on track at the moment. So not everyone's out there. As Verstappen, I think Red Bull just waiting for a gap, obviously, in the traffic. And Verstappen now coming out onto circuit. There's a couple cars ahead of him. Can't quite see who it was. I missed a syncing up point again. So I will do it in about 50 seconds time. Nobody's set a time yet, though, so don't worry. No times are being set right now. Everybody is on an outlap. I think the first car on the track that will set a time, I think, is a Williams, I see. And then it's Norris, and then it's another Williams, I think. So we'll wait until that happens, as Hamilton closely, to a certain extent, following the Williams ahead of, I believe, Nicholas Latifi. Not entirely sure. And the timer is up now. There you go. 13 minutes to go in qualifying 2. As Hamilton quite close behind the Williams through Blanchimont into the final chicane. He's going to have to back up now. Can't be having a Williams ahead of him. As Mercedes... What is going on here? Mercedes are preparing for another pit stop. I don't know if Hamilton's got a puncture. Maybe you guys can confirm that in the chat if you're listening to the commentary. at the track. But quite unusual, Hamilton's pitting for another set of intermediate tyres. I'm going to guess he had a flat tyre. I'm going to guess that was the reason. Well, no. Because Bottas is pitting as well. I don't get that. That makes no sense. I mean, yeah, maybe they were on the set that they used at the end of Q1, but as long as you use a fresh set at the end of the session, then why does it matter about the start of the session? I don't get it. Anyway, Lando Norris, the man who was P1 in Q1, is now P1 in Sector 1 so far in Q2. The purple first sector, McLaren, no surprise, very quick in that first sector. Got to say, parts of the track are really starting to dry out now. Still too wet for dry tyres, but if the sun comes out and really roars, then I think we could see some dry running. But it is Spa, and the weather does tend to change a lot. As Carlos Sainz is also on a lap, about 15 seconds behind Norris at the moment on track. As Norris does 1:26.0 so far on this lap. We'll see what Carlos Sainz does in comparison. I'm going to say it's going to be slow. Yeah, Sainz is almost 2 seconds slower on this lap compared to Norris. Norris is on fire. Absolutely on fire here. As Latifi has just gone P1, but I'm afraid that's about to be smashed by Lando Norris. He goes P1 on a 1:57.2. So Norris up to first. And then let me just update that Russell now is in second place. And then you've got Carlos Sainz in third. Now Gasly second. I don't understand why Williams are so quick. Doesn't really make that much sense. As Gasly now up to second in the AlphaTauri. And then Russell third, Sainz fourth. And then Latifi is in, well, he was in fifth place. And then Daniel Ricciardo decided to pop up into fourth place in the McLaren. Pretty good there for him. Saying that, he is still 1.7 seconds slower than his teammate, which is absolutely terrible. As Sebastian Vettel sets a good time, only 0.6 of a second slower than Lando Norris, and goes second. Sebastian Vettel up to second place. Gasly is third. It looks as though Hamilton has just been off the track because his left front tyre is flat spotted. As Max Verstappen, by the way, does a lap time, and guess what? Goes second again. Norris has the pace. Quite stunning from Lando. So Norris first, Verstappen second, and then Vettel third, Gasly fourth. Sergio Perez is now up into fifth place. And then Charles Leclerc goes sixth. I'm guessing they put on a more worn set of intermediates because Hamilton actually did a purple first sector. And now into the second sector. Oh no, he must have been a mistake at Leclerc because he's lost 3 seconds in the middle sector. Yeah, so that's probably what happened there. Yeah, Perez is fifth, Leclerc is sixth. And then Lance Stroll is in seventh. Russell 8th, Ricciardo 9th, Sainz 10th, and in the drop zone at the moment, Latifi, Ocon, Alonso, and then Hamilton and Bottas. But I think Hamilton and Bottas are about to set their first times. So here's a replay of Norris bouncing over the entry curb to the final chicane. And the second part of the chicane as well, using all of the curb. And that is a big reason why Lando is currently P1. As Hamilton is now on a proper flying lap. Well, he's going for another one because his first one was very slow. 11.7 seconds off the pace, which is nowhere near, of course, good enough. As Hamilton comes up to Leclerc, and he's 2/10 quicker than Sainz, who, of course, is 10th at the moment. And it's the man he needs to beat to get out of the danger zone. But I will say, it does seem as though the Mercedes are struggling at that corner, Leclerc. Like, struggling in terms of slowing down from such a high speed. They just can't... They can't get the braking performance right at that corner. And they also don't seem to have the confidence to get the car slowed down enough. Because they've been very erratic, put it that way, at that corner. As with 6.5 minutes to go, we wait to see what the first proper lap times will be from Mercedes. As Lewis Hamilton comes through turn 14, or Stavolo 1. And Hamilton is setting a good enough time to get into the next part of qualifying, but it's miles off Lando Norris and Max Verstappen's times at the minute. As Valtteri Bottas also miles off Norris and Verstappen. As Russell jumps up to 6th in the Williams. Only 1.2 seconds off P1 at the moment. As Hamilton comes through the final chicane. Good exit. And comes to the line and goes 7th. 1.5 seconds off the pace. And Bottas only goes 9th. I don't understand why Mercedes are so slow. As Ocon is now 14th. And he's just set another time and stayed in 14th. Bottas 9th. So we're in the drop zone at the moment with 5.5 minutes to go. Ricciardo, Sainz, Latifi, Ocon, and Alonso. Daniel Ricciardo comes to the line. He jumps up to 5th in the McLaren. Good pace there to get up into 5th place. Alonso, he will come to the line and go absolutely nowhere near the lap time of Valtteri Bottas and stays in 15th place. Alpine seemingly have no speed right now. As Lance Stroll, who is currently sat in 11th place, comes to the final chicane. An expert in the wet is Lance Stroll. And he's, I think, about to showcase even more of that as he comes to the line and goes 7th in the Aston Martin. Verstappen improves his time even more, and Max Verstappen goes up to P1 by half a second on a 1:56.5, which is the quickest time we've seen in the wet so far this weekend. I stress in the wet, not overall. As Sergio Perez now jumps up to 3rd, but it does seem Red Bull are just clearly better in the wet compared to Mercedes. Mercedes are nowhere. Bottas is in the drop zone. Hamilton, he's only 2/10 away from being knocked out of Q2. Mercedes are dead slow right now. And at serious risk, and so are Ferrari in 10th and 12th, serious risk of a shocking result in qualifying. Saying that, Carlos Sainz now coming through the final chicane. His time, so far, is much improved. And he goes up to 7th. So Carlos Sainz does improve. There you go. As Mercedes come in for another pit stop with both drivers, another set of intermediate tyres. They're currently sat Mercedes in 10th and 12th. With just under 3.5 minutes to go. They've got to get on with it. So has Charles Leclerc, currently sat in P11. And so far in this lap, he is doing just about enough, I would say, to get into Q3. As he now comes up to Blanchimont. And with the grip these cars have, Blanchimont, even in the wet, should be flat unless it's a full wet condition. As Leclerc comes through the final chicane. And this should be an improvement that sees him get into the top 10. Is it? Yes, it is. He goes up to 4th place. 4th place for Charles Leclerc, meaning that currently in the drop zone with 2.5 minutes to go and one more lap to go are the two Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, Nicholas Latifi and the two Alpines of Ocon and Alonso. Of course, Ocon winning the last Grand Prix in Hungary. But can Mercedes avoid a certain disaster of qualifying so low down compared to Red Bull, who are looking very strong right now, are Red Bull, as Sebastian Vettel currently in 5th place, driving very nicely after his disqualification, of course, in Hungary. Looking for a good, solid result going into the Grand Prix tomorrow, as he's got quite a skinny rear wing compared to the other cars out there. He's come out behind Vettel. I think his teammate, yes, he has. His teammate's just come out of the pits, and Vettel is now Vettel, well, he's on his lap, but thankfully got through without really getting held up. And Vettel, with a bit of a slipstream, setting a purple first sector. 4.5 tenths quicker than Verstappen. Oh, Vettel was so close to going off the track there at turn 8. He pretty much touched the white line. As Vettel now comes through and into Puon, which of course is turn 10. In the dry, flat out. In the wet, no chance. As he now comes through. Turn 11, now into the entry of turn 12. As Lewis Hamilton, by the way, has started his final attempt in qualifying to make it into Q3. Never thought I'd be saying that. As Sebastian Vettel currently on target to go 2nd or 3rd with this attempt. As Vettel, now with 30 seconds to go, is coming through Blanchimont. And now into the final chicane. He's looked very comfortable, I have to say, on this lap of Sebastian Vettel. Now comes to the line, does the 4-time world champion, and he goes 2nd. Brilliant there from Sebastian Vettel. Lewis Hamilton, purple first sector, but can he, now with the session over, and Stroll, by the way, has finished up in 9th place. Stroll, I think, could really be at risk there, but getting knocked out because he's not been able to make the flag in time. That is a big problem for him there. As Hamilton, has he got enough speed compared to the others to get into the top 10? He should do. And yeah, at the moment, he's actually 2 tenths quicker than Max Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. This is a lot more like it. As Nicholas Latifi jumps up to 7th place. They're in the drop zone now. Russell, Hamilton, Bottas, Ocon, and Alonso as Norris goes up into 1st. Russell jumps up to 5th in the Williams. Williams in 5th and 8th at the moment as Lewis Hamilton runs to the line and Hamilton goes 2nd. So Lewis Hamilton is in to Q3. A massive sigh of relief that is for Mercedes as Pierre Gasly jumps up to 3rd place. Valtteri Bottas now goes 3rd. The Mercedes have avoided the disaster. There you go. And Esteban Ocon jumps up from 14th, I think, all the way up to 9th. So Ocon, at the moment, through to the next part of qualifying. Latifi is out. And Charles Leclerc's ended up in 10th place. Ricciardo at the moment is in 12th. Ricciardo now goes up to 9th. And both Ferraris at the moment are out of qualifying in Q2. Actually, they are out. They've both seen the flag, and they are both out. Alonso now comes to the line. Alonso only goes 14th. And there you go. So knocked out at the end of qualifying 2, Charles Leclerc, Nicholas Latifi, Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, Paul from Ferrari. But those are the drivers and teams knocked out from qualifying 2 here at Spa. And your top 10, by the way, Norris, Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly, Verstappen, Vettel, Perez, Russell, Ricciardo, Ocon. And obviously coming up next is the fight for pole position. And at the moment, it looks as though, legitimately, Lando Norris could get pole position in the McLaren. Something I never thought I'd be saying this weekend. How mentally good is this driver? Right, let's get some stuff ready here. So, Q3, of course, 12-minute session. And given how long the lap is, I think what you're going to see is everyone bombing out of the pits straight away, setting a couple times, and then desperately getting in as quickly as possible to get one more set of inters on, if they have any more sets that are, you know, fresher, to then do, say, one final run at the end of the session. That's what's going to happen here. But definitely 2 or 3 runs, probably 3, I think we're going to see in Q3. Like I said, 12-minute session. Cannot wait to see who ends up on top. And guys, let me know. Give me your final prediction. I actually forgot to ask you guys about your predictions for qualifying today. Sorry about that. But give me right now your top 3 prediction for qualifying now, going into Q3, now that we know our top 10. The top 10 being Norris, Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly, Verstappen, Vettel, Perez, Russell, Ricciardo, Ocon. Who, in your opinion, will get pole, qualify second, qualify third? Let me know right now, and I will read out as many as I can before the end of the session. Just want to say again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I will be live 3 times tomorrow for the race preview at 11 a.m. UK time, the race watch along at 1:30 p.m. UK time, and then the race review at 7 p.m. UK time. And there will be a qualifying watch-along highlights / best bits video coming out sometime later tonight, so you guys can catch up on the best bits of this stream. So don't forget to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, or just go to my channel page and do it there. And whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell, and as well, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. As by the way, Q3 will start in about 2 minutes. They've just said it will start on the hour. Let's just read out some of your predictions then quickly. Lewis, Max, Lando. Silverback says Hamilton, Norris, Bottas. Rui, I think it is. Says Lando, Norris, go, go, go. Rage Gill fan says Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton. Jeff Hemming says Hamilton, Bottas. Hamilton's that good. He finishes second as well. Notice says Max, Lewis, Lando. 4th Deconstruction says Verstappen, Hamilton, Norris. Martin says Norris, Verstappen, Bottas. Bling Gaming says Norris, Verstappen, Hamilton, Vettel, Russell, Perez, Gasly. If Russell was to qualify 5th, I think my voice would blow out of the universe. Morris says Lewis, Max, Lando. Hamilton, Norris, Max. Astro Stevo saying Hamilton, Norris, Ricciardo. Brabham Oz saying Max, Norris, Lewis. Els, or is it Els Hunter? I think it is, saying Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen. Buies says Norris, Verstappen, Perez. Let me read out a couple more. Richard Reed, Hamilton, Bottas, Norris, Verstappen, Gasly, Perez. And one more. There you go. Bert Hampler, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. And did I read that one out? JDM Gearhead saying Norris, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Bottas. BMW saying Hamilton, Bottas, and Verstappen. So there you go. Those are your predictions for Q3. And I've got to say, what I am seeing at the moment is nowhere near what I thought was going to happen at all. At all. Lando Norris topping Q1 and Q2. I mean, I knew he'd be strong, but I thought 4th or 5th is where he would be hovering, not 1st consistently. let's see if he can maintain it. If he can, then this is going to be the highlight, of course, of his career. And probably the biggest indication that McLaren are back since their recovery, say, since the start of 2019. As I'm just showing a replay, our FOM of Lance Stroll missing the flag, which I'd say that given when he came out on track, I'd say that's probably the team's fault, because he came out and was on the Kemmel Straight with a minute and a half to go, and it takes 2 minutes in the wet to do a time. So they just simply didn't give him the time to get out there. As it is raining now, obviously, but it's raining so much heavier now that they're now out on the full wet tyres. Lando Norris coming out on the full wet. And yeah, the rain, you can see it on the broadcast, clearly falling a lot harder now than it was a few minutes ago. And now, of course, Q3 underway and the fight for pole position begins. As Norris, Gasly, Vettel, Russell, Ocon are the only cars on track. Be intriguing to see, as Red Bull are not even got any tyres on the car yet. Be intriguing to see if anyone decides to take a risk and go for an intermediate at some point, if it does start to dry up in certain areas. As missed the syncing up point again. I'll do it in about 50 seconds time. And yeah, now they've got the tyres on, I think, Verstappen's car. So I'm going to guess that's a set of full wet tyres. And they're now applying some air tyre pressure to Verstappen's tyres there. And yeah, the rain falling a lot harder now. And I think at the moment, definitely, I don't think there's going to be anyone trying an intermediate tyre in this condition. Too much rain falling and quite a lot of puddles now. And if you're on the Inter, you're just going to spin off and crash and end up in the gravel, having a serious incident. And there you go. 10 minutes to go in Q3. As we've now got every car on track except for Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez. Saying that now Hamilton and Perez come out onto the track, I believe. Well, Perez not yet, but Hamilton has. As Lando Norris will be the first man to set a time here in Q3. And yeah, Perez now joins the circuit. You can barely see down the pit straight through the camera there. That's how much rain is falling right now. As Norris takes a very tight line into turn one, which obviously is helping him. And yeah, a lot of standing water on the run. Oh, this is very heavy rain. Very heavy rain. This is, I will admit, I'm a bit anxious right now about this. And oh no! Norris has had an absolutely massive crash at Eau Rouge, and I knew it's going to happen. Red flag. You could just see it. The water in between turn one and Eau Rouge was unbelievable. The standing water and the spray being kicked up. You could barely see the McLaren. You could barely see the McLaren car. And Norris sat in the car, and I'm hoping to dear God that he's moving. As there's a Aston Martin driver, I think, just checking to see if he's okay. You can't see from this above angle if he's actually moving or not. I need to freeze the timer there. So, Norris, such a shame, because he had the speed, did Norris, to possibly get pole position. And now it's all gone away, because the conditions have simply just made the track a lake, an undrivable lake. And There you go. Oh, no. Just want to... And yeah, Norris, thankfully, getting out of the car. He's fine. Lando Norris, probably a bit shaken, but he looks fine. Thank God. Thank the fucking Lord that he is okay. After, you know, previous accidents at that corner. And so here's a replay. So exit of turn 1, fine. And then you can just see, even on board, the amount of standing water he's having to go through. It's unbelievable. And then when he gets to Eau Rouge, in the middle of the corner, I think he maybe have touched a white line there. And then he spun, hit the inside of the Radion corner, and then just spun across. I mean, really, on board, it didn't look that bad of a crash. But off board, at the time, it looked absolutely terrifying. Let me just see. And yeah, I think he touched the white line in the middle, white line / curb in the middle of Eau Rouge. And then that just sent the car straight into the barrier and then into a terrifying accident. But thankfully, he is okay. I'm trying at the moment to put on the screen that we have a red flag, but my OBS doesn't want to play ball right now. There you go. So red flag. The session will get underway again. Just gonna have to wait a few minutes. But yeah, we have 8 minutes and 59 seconds to go. So we haven't missed anything. I mean, yeah, there's 3 less minutes for the drivers and teams to get laps on the board, but at the end of the day, that's the way it is. And I will say, the track is so wet, I don't think the session will be getting underway very, very soon. I have to say that. And very nice and of what Sebastian Vettel did, which alleviated probably a lot of people's concern, is driving up next to Norris's car and, you know, asking, "Are you okay?" And then Norris giving the thumbs up back, saying, "Yep, I'm okay." Great that he did that. But that McLaren now completely smashed to bits, and I wouldn't be surprised if Norris starts from the pit lane tomorrow. If he doesn't know, then he'll be starting the race in 10th place instead of possibly pole position. There you go. Yeah, that was very scary, honestly. Sharan says Q3 shouldn't have gone underway. I mean, they could have possibly red flagged it because they could probably already see the amount of standing water on the track. But I would say you need to give them a slight benefit of the doubt because the conditions did deteriorate. Can't even fucking say that word. Dramatically. So we do need to give them the benefit of the doubt there because at one point it was fine, the conditions, and then 5 minutes later you can barely see any of the cars. You know what I mean? It very, very quick that those things happened. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt there. And session will probably, I'd say, at the earliest, will get underway in probably 10 minutes. Because they need to clear away the car, and then they need to see if the conditions are good enough for running. When, I have to say, at the point when Norris crashed, it was too heavy, the rain. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, when it does get underway, 8 minutes and 59 seconds to go. Let me look at the chat quick. Let me find some other comments. Good ones. Jerome asks, wait, does that mean Norris starts at the back of the grid? I mean, no. I mean, if he has to change all of his engine and gearbox parts, then yeah. And chassis and, anything that could penalise him and put him to the back of the grid, then yeah. But if not, if they can rebuild the car and it's fine, then he'll start the race in 10th place. So, yeah. And to be honest, right now, I may as well just put Norris back down into 10th, because that's where he's going to end up at the end of this session, unfortunately. And it is very unfortunate, because what a day he's had. Q1 and Q2, he was definitely on fire. And then with the conditions in a horrible way, made it obviously a lot harder, that run to Eau Rouge. But I got to say, technically, you've got to say it's a driver error. He caught too much of the white line / curb on the inside of Eau Rouge. So, technically speaking, whether you like it or not, he made a mistake. I mean, yeah, the conditions were pretty bad, but, I didn't see... He didn't go off because he aquaplaned, is what I'm trying to say. He didn't go off because there was too much standing water. There was on the approach to Eau Rouge and Raidillon, but he didn't go off at that point. The reason he went off is because he clipped the white line / curb and it sent his car into a spin. And then, as I show in the replay now, he then hit the barrier and, kaboom, unfortunately. Sadly. So, yeah, like I said, you may not like it, but at the end of the day, it's a driver error, and he has paid the price for that, because he will now start the race a lot lower down than he should be. Saying that, though, if it is wet tomorrow and he does start 10th, then I don't see why he can't still finish on the podium, because his pace was right there with Verstappen and Hamilton, without doubt. Without doubt. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But at least he's okay, and that's the main thing. Astra Stevo saying Norris 10th, almost certainly, but unless someone else or more than just one driver also crashes out in Q3 if it resumes, which could be anyone, really. True. I think how it works is, so Norris was, 4 corners into his first flying lap. If any of the other 9 crash without setting a time, if they get further on their lap, then they'll still be ahead of him because they, did more of their lap, if you know what I mean. So Norris is most likely going to start in 10th. As got to say, the barriers did pretty well there. And I will say as well, I cannot wait. I think there's going to be a gravel trap on the exit of Raidillon there. Cannot wait for it, because I got to say, tarmac being on that exit, I've never thought it was a good idea, because if you then crash in the middle of Raidillon or the entry or whatever and swing off to that exit, you're not going to slow down until you hit the barriers. At least with gravel, yeah, you could possibly flip, but the gravel is going to slow you down as soon as you hit it. That's why gravel is a good thing. And this thought of, we need to make tarmac runoffs. Tarmac runoffs do not make things safer. Yes, they prevent the car flipping over, but if you flip over at slower speed, then it's safer than if you hit the barriers head on at 200 miles an hour. So, gravel traps all the way. And Yep, cart just being put on the back of the lorry, and they're just clearing up some of the track at the moment. Just picking up some debris, and I think they're spraying the track with some sort of, was it cement or something, to avoid the other drivers. And I will say that's going to make things a bit difficult now, because that's going to make the grip on that exit a bit tricky, put it that way. And yeah, as Astro Stevo saying there, simple, higher speed impacts. Even if you don't flip and do loads of flips, you're always going to have a higher speed impact into the barrier or whatever. Another car, person, lamppost, house, doesn't matter. If you have a tarmac runoff, you're always going to have a quicker impact into whatever that is with a tarmac runoff. If it's a gravel trap, as soon as you get in, especially if you make it quite a heavy gravel trap, the gravel is going to slow the car down dramatically. That's why we had gravel, so much of it back in the 90s and the 2000s, because they slowed the cars down. And yeah, it can cause the car to move about and possibly flip over, but like I said, if you flip over at a lot slower speed, then it's okay. Yeah, it can be a bit dramatic, but it's okay. But if you hit, like I say, if you hit the barriers at 200 miles an hour, facing forward, your chances of death are incredibly higher. Find some other comments here if I can. Duran says, hope Norris is okay, even his car. Such a talented driver. Like I said, I think he'll be a bit shaken from it, but I don't think he'll, he'll be okay. That's the thing with racing drivers is, and it's probably hard for you watching and me at times to comprehend, but if we got in an F1 car, I think Jeremy Clarkson has said this before when he drove like some sort of single-seater car. Your first thought as a normal person is, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. For them, it's, where can I go faster, 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 faster? And they don't care if they crash. I mean, of course, they'll try to avoid it, but it's always avoid in the quickest way possible. It's all about speed, 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 speed. And so it gets to the point with them where they don't really consider crashing as really something that's going to happen or something they need to avoid constantly. So, when it does happen, it's just, dust yourself off and go again. I know it's hard to comprehend, but that's the way racing drivers are built. All they care and think about is speed, speed, speed. They don't, they don't look to finish as safely as possible. They look to finish as quickly as possible. So for them, it's not really, obviously it's a big deal to a certain extent, but they don't think about it like a normal person would. They're constantly thinking about the speed rather than the accident that's possible. As still have a red flag, still raining. The rain isn't falling as heavy as it was, which is good news. It's I won't say drizzling, but medium, I'd say, intensity is the rain, I would say, at the moment. As they're still putting cement dust, I think, down over where Norris's car spun off, which, like I said, is going to make things pretty tricky for the drivers. And now the truck is trying to just cement it into the ground, no pun intended. Yeah, as soon as I know when the session is going to get underway, of course, I'm going to tell you guys, so don't worry about that. As, yeah, hopefully, I'd hope within the next 10 minutes we're going to hear something about when we'll be underway. Because we've got to finish the session. The conditions, I would say, now are definitely a lot better and probably good enough to get running again. So we've got to. And like I said, 8 minutes and 59 seconds to go until the end of qualifying. But we still wait for the session to get back underway. As Ocon, just saw a shot of him. Got to say, Ocon's done very well to out-qualify his teammate again. As now he's in an interview with Fernando Alonso, of course, qualified in 14th place, which is, yeah, pretty poor considering you'd think he would be the highest placed Alpine man. Or if he was to be out-qualified by Ocon, that he would be, say, 11th, something like that, but 14th, and be out-qualified by a Williams, that's not even a Williams, 2 Williamses, not even 1. Pretty poor from Fernando there, I'm afraid. But I think in the race tomorrow we'll see definitely a lot better performance, because of course he's always better in the race or in the races than he is in a qualifying session. At least McLaren, though, have still got another car in the action, Daniel Ricciardo, who, of course, will benefit from Norris, unfortunately, not being in the session. And Ricciardo, given his speed so far, Ricciardo looks as though he's probably going to be around 6th, 7th, 8th. If he could get 6th, that would be pretty good for him, considering his troubles in qualifying this season. But still, we wait to hear when the session will actually get underway. Hopefully, it's not going to be a long wait, because I don't have all fucking day to wait for 9 minutes of running. And I'm sure you guys don't either. Rain, though, has now started to increase. Again, this is what I mean. If you don't get out there at the right time, I'm not saying they needed to get out there right then because the track, I don't think, was ready. But what I'm trying to say is you can't wait too long with the weather, because it can intensify again. And then you're back in a situation where it's torrential and there's aquaplaning and all of that. And yeah, the rain is falling very heavily right now. And what's not helping is the wind is blowing in these, this rain. About 10 kilometers an hour, the wind. And every time a shower passes, it just blows straight in the next awful shower. And this rain shower that we're seeing at the moment is quite horrific. Yeah, we're not going to get any running anytime soon, I'm afraid, guys. Oh, well, I knew after the delay of the start of the session that we'd be in for a bit of a long one, because I knew there'd be red flags at some point, or yellow flags. But this is a bit, yeah. Session, of course, should have ended about 30 minutes ago, pretty much. And still, of course, awaiting the final 9 minutes. But the final 9 minutes is going to seem, those final 9 minutes even starting, going to be a long time. The Raj, is there a chance of qualifying resuming? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's enough daylight. It's not like sometimes we had in Japan where it's almost nighttime. We've got plenty of daylight left. We've got what? By the way, like I said, 8 minutes 59 seconds to go, in case you're wondering. We've got what? I mean, it's 25 past 4 local time, probably 4 more hours of daylight. So surely at some point the rain is going to pass to the point where we can get in 9 minutes of running. So we're going to have it. It's just we might be waiting a while. And the crowd, a large crowd, which is great to see. Also waiting patiently. And there's just a replay again on the TV broadcast of Lando Norris's crash, which is why we have a red flag. As Norris then came to a halt. And that's the thing, when you play it full speed off board, it's a very big crash. On board though, it didn't look as bad. But yeah, the damage done, especially to the rear end of the car, as well, with the rear wing being knocked off, means that a lot of repairs going to be required for that McLaren, and possibly a big grid penalty for the milkman. But yeah, just waiting. I mean, the rain looks to have eased off again, but I don't know if that's just a slight break in the action and we're about to have even more heavy rain. I don't know. But whilst we're waiting, guys, try and keep me entertained in the chat with some questions about F1 or something. Because, like I say, we're going to be waiting quite a bit. Yeah, go ahead. And rivers running down. I think that's... and yeah, so the radar is just showing the Spa circuit surrounded by really heavy rain that's on its way constantly. So, yeah. Will Seb stay P5? If they can't get the session done today, what they'll do is they'll just host it tomorrow morning. Qualifying will be completed, don't worry. If it's not tonight or this afternoon, it will be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m, 11 a.m. It will happen. Astro Stevo asks, as there's a slight break in the cloud and a ray possibly of hope. Astro Stevo asking, what is the certainty of Russell replacing Bottas at Mercedes? I think it's pretty much nailed on. I think if Russell had still not got a points finish and Bottas had, as by the way, safety car is now doing some testing runs just to see what the track condition is like. If Bottas had, say, continued getting some podiums here and there, and Russell had still not been able to get that point for Williams, then I think Mercedes would have still kept Bottas. But I think Russell has just done too much for you to ignore him. I think that's clear to see. He's been too good, has Russell. He's been, finishing 8th in Hungary. I know, of course, his teammate finished in 7th, but we know Russell, of course, is better than Nicholas Latifi. And also, Russell really helped Latifi out in Hungary, holding back Verstappen, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, who were, fast behind. But Russell really helped him out, but yeah, Latifi was great also. Yeah, that result and, qualifying 8th at Silverstone in the pre-sprint race qualifying, that was another big step. And the amount of times this season where Russell has almost scored a point other than Hungary for me, it just makes it so hard to justify keeping Valtteri Bottas in his seat, especially when Valtteri Bottas in the last few races has been pretty poor. I can't really think of that many races this season where Valtteri Bottas has stood out to me. Maybe Monaco being the only one, but other than that, what has he really done that hasn't been helped by the car performance? He got a pole position in Portugal. Okay. Like I said, other than that, what has he really done? It's not like he's won a couple races this season, which if he did, I think definitely Bottas would be nailed on to stay there because that's what they would classify as, good enough. But yeah, I just don't think Bottas has done enough, and I think Russell has shown so much talent and speed. I don't see how they could sit there and be like, nah, we'll keep Bottas for another year. I don't see why they should. Need to go for Russell. Bottas, look, good driver. I think he's had a great time at Mercedes. He's been a great driver for Mercedes. Let's not forget that. He's been to them what Rubens Barrichello was to Ferrari. A great number 2 driver, picking up vital results for the Constructors' Championship, the occasional race win that, shows how good of a driver they are, but also, again, helps the team. He's had a great, career at Mercedes, but it's time, as a famous football fan said, it's time to go. So, yeah, Valtteri Bottas, it's done. It's done. I think Bottas should stay on the grid, though. I don't think he should, he shouldn't be on the grid. He is absolutely good enough to be a Formula 1 driver. Let's not forget the last year or two, where he's still shown enough, to be right up there. It's just that this year, I think Mercedes not having quite a balanced, good enough car at times, and him just not being anywhere near his best, I think is reason why Valtteri Bottas is not cut it this year. But he is good enough to be on the grid, and I think, yeah, if he can, maybe it'll be a swap deal, him to Williams and Russell to Mercedes. That would be good for Bottas, as long as Williams were not shit next season, which you would think, given the financial situation that Williams have, at the moment it doesn't look great, but you'd think it would improve given the amount of money they're going to gain at the end of this year, going into next year, from finishing 8th compared to when them finishing 10th in the last 2-3 years. So yeah, I think Russell will replace Bottas, and I think it's the best thing. Best thing for Mercedes, best thing for Russell, best thing for Bottas, because I think with Bottas, I just think there's nothing more he can do. He's not going to win a world championship. He can win the occasional race when he's really on it and he gets a bit of luck here and there. That, it's over. He's hit his peak. He's not going to, maybe, I think we probably will see races in the future if he does continue in Formula 1, not with Mercedes. I think we will see races in the future where you see glimpses of Valtteri Bottas at his peak, and there'll be certain races where he is really, really good and at his peak, but I think on a consistent basis, I think Valtteri Bottas's peak is over, and he's now on that slow slide down. Is Valtteri. Silverback says Bottas has mental breaks that because he is 100% good enough to be on a grid. That's not a question. He more proved that for years. Yeah, he's, like I said, he's absolutely good enough to be a Formula 1 driver. It's just he's not helping Lewis Hamilton really this season. The reason Lewis Hamilton right now is in the lead of the championship is not because of Valtteri Bottas taking points away from Max Verstappen. It's because the collision at Silverstone between Hamilton and Verstappen, and then Bottas taking out all those drivers. Of course, unintentionally, which of course damaged Verstappen's car a lot, and that was the reason Verstappen had very poor pace compared to Lewis Hamilton, because he didn't really have any real grip in his car. His floor was just completely destroyed. It's a miracle he actually finished the race, did Max Verstappen. By the way, safety cars come back into the pits, and the track, well, not that track, that karting track, I was going to say, doesn't look like it's quite in good enough condition for cars to go around it, but apparently for go-karts it's good enough. Well, not for someone out there who's gone into the gravel trap. Nice moment for him, being filmed in front of millions of people. But I think we might now be in a situation where the track is in good enough condition for the running. I think what I'm going to just quickly do is I'm just going to go to F1 Twitter, not the F1, F1 Twitter account. But, certain accounts in F1 Twitter world. Update, Lando Norris is currently undergoing checks at the trackside medical center. Let me just see what this certain person is saying quickly. Certain person tends to have pretty good updates. And Vettel, apparently on team radio, said, yeah, well, what the fuck did I say? What did I say? Red flag, unnecessary. Is he okay? Stops to check. He's okay, is he okay? So Vettel clearly thought it was red flag territory, but that's the reason I have to be a bit defensive to a certain extent of the FIA, because when the session started, it still looked good enough just about to do the session, but it obviously worsened over that outlap, and they couldn't have known until really Norris started his lap. And you could see it on that run, like I said, to Eau Rouge, that it was very heavy, the rain. And I think maybe if he got to the Camel Straight and the spray was even worse, then maybe they would have said, yeah, let's red flag this and wait it out. But that's the way things happened, unfortunately. Nothing you can do about it. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. And now we're just waiting for some sort of news as to when the session will be getting underway. Please be sometime soon, please. The crowd eagerly waiting as well. Safety car, by the way, is not on track anymore, as the driver of the cart that got, trapped in the gravel is pulled his own cart out. So there you go. Yeah, the safety car, like I was saying, it's not on track anymore. So it's done. It's running on the circuit. So now we, giving some feedback to Michael Massey, the FIA race director, and hopefully we'll be getting underway in a minute. Brabham Oz asks, Kaz, who do you think wins the World Championship, Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen? I am still going to go for Lewis Hamilton because experience plus consistency. I still think, even though Verstappen was very consistent at times in the first half of the season, I just think, like I say, with Hamilton's experience and that, I just think he has enough. I think I've said that a lot of times this season, that ultimately I think Lewis Hamilton won the championship because I just think Hamilton has enough talent, speed, consistency, experience to win it. And I think Verstappen, even though Verstappen is immensely quick, probably the quicker car this season, I don't think he has enough consistency compared to Lewis Hamilton, and I don't think the fact he's inexperienced when it comes to fighting for a world championship, I think plays against him. I'm not saying he's definitely not gonna win the championship purely based on inexperience. He could still win it based on being lucky, the car being so much quicker than the Mercedes car. I think that lack of experience does play a factor. Not a massive factor, because Verstappen is still very quick, very good. The Red Bull car, like I said, very, very good. I just think, like I said, I think lack of experience will play a factor. And there you go. The fans are cheering, I think. I'm going to guess, unless they're just showing off the camera. If they're not doing that, then surely it means that we're about to get underway in a few minutes' time. No rain falling at the moment, so if they're going to get out there, they need to get out there right now. Right now. Because there is literally no rain falling at Lecombe. Please don't tell me the safety car's out again. Oh, why? Please tell me this is a replay. Oh, it's not a replay. Oh. This happened at Monza in 2017. It's what frustrates me. If you want to know what happened at Monza in 2017, what happened was, so every time they red flagged a session because it was too wet or a crash happened, they would wait and wait and wait and wait, and then as soon as there was a break in the rain, they wouldn't be out there when they needed to, and then when they went out there eventually, it started raining again, and they'd red flag it again. It's just, you can't fight nature. Nature always wins. You can't just sit there and wait it out like a stubborn, Just need to get out there and get the laps in. If it rains again, it rains again. But if you get out there now on the track, then now it's dry. At least if you have to red flag it again because of the weather, at least you'll get an extra 3 or 4 minutes of the session. A safety car now going through Pouhon. It is raining, by the way. The reason I've not got pictures of cars in wet conditions is because these pictures I collected, I put, for the stream. And yep, session will resume in 2 minutes. Get in. Fucking get in. Right. So let's get rid of that red flag thing and get us ready for the start of qualifying. Well, pretty much the start of qualifying 3, because we've not had any lap times, so this pretty much is going to be the start of the session. Like I said, in 2 minutes time. So here we go. And let me just quickly switch to a different picture. There you go. Better one of Valtteri Bottas, I think that is, in the Mercedes. Of course, it's the birthday boy today. And yep, session will be getting underway in about a minute or less than that. Let me just have a check. So yeah, about 30 seconds time. The session will be underway, and I'll sync the timer up when we get down to 8 minutes, because I can't do it now because it's like 8 minutes 59. If it was dead level on 9 minutes, then I obviously would be in luck, but I'm not. And if you look at the track at the moment, you got to say it looks like an intermediate tyre that needs to be out there, not a full wet. I understand some may want to be cautious in case another rain shower comes, but yeah, you can't. It's Martin Brundle says this all the time. You've got to be on the right tyre at the right time. Even if you know, aren't on that tyre for very long, you've got to be on the right tyre at the right time, no matter what. And here we go. We've got an Alpine of Esteban Ocon. He's going to be the first man to set a time, hopefully. Hopefully he doesn't have any sort of drama out there. And finally, guys, qualifying 3 is back underway after a very long delay of, half an hour or something like that. We are finally back underway, and hopefully the final 8.5 minutes pretty much will be uninterrupted brilliance from these 9 drivers on the track. The 9 drivers being now, of course, with Lando Norris out, Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly, Verstappen, Vettel, Perez, Russell, Ricciardo, and Esteban Ocon. As Ocon, only driver on track right now. I say that, now comes out the Williams of George Russell. And Ocon, by the way, on the full wet tyre. And what are the others on? Let's see if they're on inters. And let me just sync up the timer in 3, 2, 1. There you go. 8 minutes to go in qualifying. And Verstappen coming out, and so is Sergio Perez on intermediate tyres, which for me look to be the best tyre, given what the track looks like. As Verstappen exits the pit lane now, and now so does Sergio Perez. The only cars, of course, Norris is not going to be on track. The only cars not on track right now who ought to be are Gasly and Ricciardo. Vettel, Russell, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez, Ocon, all on track. Russell and Ocon are on the wet tyres. Vettel is on the inters. Verstappen and Perez are on the inters, and so are Hamilton and Bottas. As Verstappen on his outlap goes through Les Combes, and now heading down to turn 8 in just a moment. Got a long time until he starts his lap. Probably going to see a lap, maybe 2 at most, and then I think they'll come back into the pits for a fresh set of tyres if they have any. And then one final run. Or maybe, as Ocon has come back in for intermediate tyres, which of course is the right decision, hopefully Williams do the same thing with Russell and don't waste a run. But we might see cars, just if they've got enough fuel on board, going from now to the end of the session without pitting. My throat doing its usual. As Lewis Hamilton, by the way, as Russell, has pitted, he's going to put on a set of inters instead. Lewis Hamilton is about to start his first run in qualifying 3. Can he get pole position for the second year in a row at Spa? And can he get his 4th pole position in the last 5 years at the Belgian Grand Prix? We're about to see if he can. As Hamilton exits La Source, still quite a lot of water on the run from La Source to Eau Rouge, but nowhere near as much as there was when Norris had his accident. Hamilton now through Eau Rouge, and Radion gets through just fine. And Lewis now comes up to the first sector, does a 34.0. As Verstappen, by the way, has started his first lap. Let's see what Bottas' sector time is. Bottas 0.3 down on Hamilton after first sector alone. Verstappen gets through Eau Rouge and Radion just fine. No issues at all. As Hamilton now into the meat of the second sector. Verstappen in the first sector is quicker. Purple first sector. Don't know how much quicker. They didn't really show. as Hamilton now through the exit pull-on and now into turn 12 and 13. Very long corners in these conditions. And Hamilton now coming up to Stavolo 1 and 2 and the Paul Frere curve. And Hamilton 130.1 so far on this lap. Let's see what Bottas has done. Bottas does a 131.3. So Bottas miles off the pace as expected in these conditions. Hamilton through Blanchimont now to the final chicane. And Lewis Hamilton, he will come to the line and go quickest because he is the first man to set a time and does a 2-minute 1.5. So Lewis Hamilton currently in P1. Valtteri Bottas will go second, but will be over a second slower than Hamilton. Yes, 1.5 seconds slower than Hamilton. So Hamilton on provisional pole. Max Verstappen with 3.5 minutes to go. What can he do? As Sebastian Vettel goes up to third. Max Verstappen exits the final chicane and he's nowhere near Lewis Hamilton. A second slower on that lap. He goes second, but a second off the pace. Nowhere near Lewis Hamilton. And he's got to do a lot more in these final 3 minutes if he wants to get pole position for the first time here at Spa as Sergio Perez goes 5th in the Red Bull. What a poor lap from Sergio Perez. A poor lap really from both Red Bull drivers, as I'm going to guess that Hamilton is now doing a slow down or a cool down lap because he's not going to get back out in time if he pits at the end of this lap, as Gasly goes 5th in the AlphaTauri. So just waiting on Russell, Ricciardo and Ocon to set their first times of Q3 with 2.5 minutes remaining. And it's Hamilton who is in provisional pole position. Daniel Ricciardo, P7, as Verstappen has to let through his teammate, Sergio Perez, I believe. Or I think it might have been the other way round. But Esteban Ocon now goes 8th. As we are now 2 minutes to go. Verstappen needs to find 1 full second if he is to get pole position for the first time at Spa. A track, of course, so close to home. But despite that, Hamilton showing him the way in these conditions around definitely the greatest racetrack of them all. Sergio Perez, after the first 2 sectors, is 0.5 tenth down on Lewis Hamilton, as Perez now comes into the final sector, which is mostly flat out. Through Blanchimont he goes, and now into the final chicane, and Perez hits the apexes nicely enough of the chicane. Painfully slow it is. And he comes to the line. And Perez goes second. 0.5 second down on Lewis Hamilton. Got to say, Hamilton's final sector was something else. As Hamilton, now with less than a minute to go, begins his final attempt at securing pole position at Spa. As Lewis Hamilton, already through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, I think Verstappen... no, it's Perez. I was going to say, I thought Verstappen was right behind him. It's actually Sergio Perez grabbing a bit of slipstream as Hamilton just under 0.2 of a second quicker. As Russell has done a purple first sector in the Williams. That's quite amazing. As Hamilton now into turn 8. And a bit skittish on the rear end on the exit. As he now comes through turn 11, the no-name corner, as Esteban Ocon now goes up to P7. That's probably going to be, unless he's got any more fuel and grip, probably going to be his final attempt there. As they're just showing Russell on the left-hand side. And Russell at the moment is 1.7 seconds up on Lewis Hamilton. Purple Sector 1 and Sector 2, and the session now over. The final laps have now begun, and George Russell, well, Hamilton now does a purple middle sector, but Russell absolutely flying in the Williams as he now comes to the final chicane in just a moment. Hamilton looks as though he's got possibly pole position here. Russell into the final chicane, and now will come to the line. Can he get up onto the front of the grid? Yes, he does. He goes on to provisional pole position. George Russell at the moment on pole position. Verstappen barely up on the Lewis Hamilton's time there. Hamilton second! Hamilton second! Russell's on pole! Russell's on pole, or is he? Because Max Verstappen is still to come through. He's coming through Blanchemont now, as Bottas is up to 4th. Hamilton is second behind Russell. Vettel goes 3rd. Ahead of Perez and Bottas. Max Verstappen rounds the final corner and comes to the line and gets pole position. Max Verstappen gets his first pole position at Spa Francorchamps. Fantastic for the crowd, fantastic for the team, fantastic for himself. Pierre Gasly now jumps up to 5th place. And I think that is all F1 wrote today in their little script. Max Verstappen on pole. George Russell second in the Williams. Are you fucking mental? Daniel Ricciardo now goes 4th in the McLaren. It's not over yet. And Ocon now finishes up absolutely in 9th. Wow. So I'll read it out again. Max Verstappen, pole position. George Russell, second in a Williams. Is this a dream? It has to be. There's no way this can be real. No. How? How has he done that? It's not like he was on a better tyre. He's on the same tyre. Get that boy in a Mercedes right now. Right now. Forget next season. Right now. He's just out-qualified Lewis Hamilton in the wet at Spa in a Williams. Do I need to say anything else about why George Russell is one of the best drivers on the grid? What a man. What a man. So, I'll try and read out the order without just losing it over Russell in second. Max Verstappen on pole position. George Russell second, Lewis Hamilton third, Daniel Ricciardo 4th, Vettel 5th, Gasly 6th, Perez 7th, Bottas 8th. Bottas will start the race in 13th because of his grid penalty. The Ocon 9th, Norris 10th, and then Leclerc 11th, Latifi 12th, Sainz 13th, Alonso 14th, Stroll 15th, and then Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Schumacher, Raikkonen, and Mazepin complete the rest of the order. And guys, that is qualifying for the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix. I cannot wait for what is surely going to be an epic race tomorrow. Wow. That is the biggest shock I have seen in years. When's the last time Williams were on the front row of a grid? Was it 2017? Well, the last time they qualified in second place, I don't think they qualified second in 2017 at the Italian Grand Prix. The last time must have been 2014. How has he done that? How has he done that? He's playing. It's like playing the F1 game on, easy difficulty. How has he done that? That is unfucking believable. Congrats to Verstappen. Where has it all gone wrong for Lewis Hamilton? How did he lose pole position there? I think I've said enough. And I think, guys, it is best I come to the end of what has been a mental 2.5 hours. Thank you guys for coming along. Like I said, the qualifying watch-along best bits will be out sometime later this evening, of course. Basically been an hour's delay. So my aim is to get it out before I go to bed. So I will get it out, even if it's like 10 p.m, 11 p.m. Sorry about that, but you know, I need to spend time editing it, and, you know, I need to convey just how epic the end of that session was somehow in that video. But yeah, that'll be out later on. Tomorrow I'll be live for the race preview at 11 a.m, race watch-along at 1:30, race review at 7 p.m. Make sure to join me. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, or just go to my channel page, and whilst you're at my channel page, don't forget to hit the notifications bell, and also smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And guys, until the next mental session, the race tomorrow, Verstappen and Russell front row. Just sit there and comprehend that for a few minutes. Verstappen and Russell front row. Until tomorrow, it's been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.